to get crazy. It's about to go down. It's about to get crazy. It's gonna be loud. This is our house. We do what we wanna. We'll blow the roof up. Everybody's coming. It's about to get crazy. It's about to go down. It's about to go down.
The horses were a massive part of the trip, and that's something that people you can't really conceptualize until you go on.
I was going to ask Adam about that because I've ridden horses quite a bit. I hunted on horseback with Bart Lancaster. You know, when Aaron and I went on our goat hunt, I hunted with horse. I used to have my own horses, a few horses and mules, and I've gone into some crazy places with them, and I was surprised where Bart could take his horses on moose trails over the tops of canyons and cuts and passes. Animal.
Yeah,
it was amazing what they could do. Where the horses would go where you didn't think they would go, and where Bart was and where we hunted, some of those river crossings were much more severe than any of the ones that we did. But what we experienced on this hunt was the extreme steep up and downs, like Man from Snowy River stuff, straight down.
Then add frozen ground, skating ice to it,
and then wet, marshy bogs where horses sink up to their guts.
It's funny. The two things that I remember most from this hunt, and so the podcast is coming on. You're like, oh, what are the real points that I would like to talk to people about? One of them's the kill, the moves. That was like really exciting, and there was so much in between. But then it goes straight to the horses, and what those horses were capable of, and what they did, and what their purpose is in a sense, and that ride out. And for the audience, we got dropped in with a float plane in the middle of nowhere. But then we're actually riding to where there was a road. We were actually riding to where there was somewhere. And there was the trail ride out, which was massive.
And so for people who don't know, on some production like this, it's a logistical feat to get the supplies and the resources and
we
stuff.
have 42 horses.
The trail out is almost like, let's put
it starts
hunting,
with the trail in.
It's like a Lord of the Rings journey.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's like, put the hunting and everything aside.
Yeah.
Do you want an epic friggin' adventure? You need the trail out at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And that right there was like, it sort of reminded me of like some Civil War hauling cannons through the mud.
That's what it felt like, a mission
shooting
of survival.
Horses that couldn't make it.
Can you imagine like the guys, the first trappers, and then the people that build the first telegraph line, and they'll go through that stuff daily, and holy, that was just a normal thing to them. And
I got frostbite. I got to cut another finger off.
yeah.
And it's only Tuesday.
Yeah. and
they didn't know days.
Yeah, it's a tough deal for those horses, and we're blessed to have all of the crew are really good with horses.
Crew.
And knew how to pick up the signs if they were sore, and
everyone was caring of horses.
Yeah.
That was like really good to see. Even like they're there for that purpose, but you can still care for them.
Yeah,
you can still be good to them. You can still, you can still check on them constantly and do things to make it easier for them, and
give them rest, give
them rest, give them
work
food,
this one that day, and
all sorts
push
of
them
things.
into the right pastures.
Yeah, take shoes off them before we start riding them on slippery slopes. There was so many things like that constantly happening with the horses. This one seems to be sore. Let's pack him lighter. Let's pack it like this. Let's check the packing. Let's saddle him like this. If your saddle was going back because you're going up slopes like this, we'd pull up, we'd resaddle, we'd move the saddle forward again.
Yeah, which is super frustrating.
It is frustrating, but everyone still cared enough that it was like, stop, let's sort this out. And the horses are amazing. Like I always say they're a miracle creature. Like you think of a horse.
Majestic.
A horse could kick the out of you. me, any of us.
Yeah.
But somehow, when they're broken, they put up with humans riding on their backs.
Like,
It's true.
For
It's true. And
miles.
and then happy doing it.
Yeah.
Ease forward. Like
Yeah.
just ridiculous.
Yeah, you had a bit of a love affair with your horse.
But I've always made a connection with.
Chance is a handsome horse.
First, I rode Rocky, and Rocky was good, but Rocky was just trailing for me, and that's it. So, so when you're trailing, like seriously, you don't. If you're a little bit loose like I am, you don't even hold the reins. The horse just has it reins. It just follows the other horses. If it was more comfortable on a saddle, you could sleep on the way. Do you know what I mean? And a couple of times I tried during the trip, but it didn't work because I'm freaking riding in a horn saddle. And it's like, but then Chance, I don't know. I just connected with Chance, and Chance don't give a shit about me. He does not care about me one little bit. He does, like a couple of times I snuck extra food in my pocket and gave it to him when the other horses weren't looking.
Me too.
He don't care about that, and he don't remember it.
No.
But you just get a certain way of a horse, and he's a massive horse. Like I can't even saddle him without a step up or something like that. Huge horse. But the day we went out to get my moose, and Diesel, one of the horses that usually leads really well, wouldn't lead, and like you were there, you witnessed this as well, and then I ended up coaching Chance in the lead in the path, and he actually ended up leading us out of camp, and he was very responsive. He's like really light in the mouth. He didn't have to be hard on him or anything, and it was really good. And then I ended up riding him every day after that out of the trip, and he was an absolute champion. He was a little bit sore on the very last day, but just the champion horse.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is these outfits like Dustin's Backcountry BC and Beyond, he has a team bring all those horses in the summer. Before the season, they ride that's how those horses get back there. Yeah. They have to go cross country. They don't get a float plane drop, And so that's a logistical, that's like a big drive across some gnarly bush.
That's a mission already.
Yep, just to get them out there. Then they're out there. Now you can fly hunters in to go hunt. And it was super enjoyable to hunt on horseback. I just love horses in general. I'm pretty good with them. And one thing I've noticed when you're on horseback and you're hunting, and in country like this, especially at horse camp, you can just look and look and look. You don't have to look where you're going because the horse is doing that on a trail. Like your eyes are free to constantly scan everything and see where you're going. When you're walking, you have to look at the ground, look up, look at the ground, look up, look at the ground, look up. And you can stop and look around. But the other thing on horses is I saw, like the moose I shot, I would only see on horseback.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to see him.
Yeah.
We would have walked up the mountain and around and gone up this other trail and completely not seen. Except on horses, I had so much more vision.
Yeah.
And you could see over those willows and stuff and those alders on horseback that you would... the day you guys backpacked in, I was thinking, as I came in there, I'm like, geez, like when you guys were on the ground...
Well, we don't see over a lot of it. And we had
on horseback, you could see...
We had to keep fighting for vantage
points.
points all day.
Yeah. Well, one cool one, like the hunt before this, we shot a moose, and then the next day went with horses and grabbed it, and then it was pretty late in the day, and we needed to take it back to where we're going to fly it out of, and so we start the trail, and my lead horse, he's kind of playing up a little bit, and finally get him onto the trail, and then like there was a point on the trail where he like flicked a switch and realised he was heading to camp, and he just started stepping out, and it's getting dark, like really dark, and I just let him take the lead, and he took me the whole way back to camp, and like you kind of just, you can't see anything, you're just going with the flow and feeling the saddle, but that's pretty neat having a good horse that knows his way back to camp, because otherwise you're kind of screwed.
Even in the dark, we rode back in the back in the dark, and you just let the horses have their reins, and they're staying on. They're sticking to a trail that you can't even see.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's pretty incredible.
they're such an amazing creature.
And so the trail out is at the end of the season. You got to get all those animals back out again.
End of the season,
winter's coming.
Everything's freezing over, snow, the ground's wet or frozen solid, and everyone's like, I'm not talking from I'm fresh. I'm a fortnight in. That's nothing.
Right.
You know, these guys had 50 days in there. The horses have had 50 days in there, right?
Yeah.
You know, so, and there's hardly any feed around because, you know, winter's come and it's killed everything off. So the horses are starting to get tired, even though they can handle a lot. But horses are getting tired. They're hungry. They're keen to get back to, you know, obviously what they remember as better feed, free range.
Yeah.
You know, so they got every and it's such a big job having them every night. The team is going around putting bells on their necks so they can hear where they're walking, and to track them down the next morning. And they hobble their front feet, and it's so the horses can't gallop or run somewhere. They just got to do a little walk, so they can't get too far. And the team would still go out and be gone for hours and hours in the dark of morning.
Yeah.
To catch horses most mornings because the horses are chasing feed, or the horses that know where home is are chasing home.
Yeah. I think mostly where we were at most of the time, they were looking for some food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
the
horses,
grass was just
the
done.
horses our crew had as their first season in, had them in a different area, so they didn't know the trail out. But
which was
Dustin's
good and
crew,
bad,
yeah,
because then they didn't know the trail out to run home and you'd lose them.
Yeah.
But they also didn't know the trail out to just walk it real easy
fast,
to go fast.
Yeah. So it was kind of both ways. But
the trail out was, I mean, I've never witnessed that many horse wrecks where horses fell down.
Yeah, we did good in actually not having any injured horses through that, you know, and like that's a credit to these guys as well, and the experience that a few of us have got. That
few close calls.
Calls. My horse, when we went down that, it was like just an ice slope down, and I think that was like one of the first wrecks we nearly had, where his full back leg slid out from underneath him and he was pretty much sliding on his ass, and I pretty much just had the reins and the neck on his hair and pulled forward to get the weight over his front legs, and he managed to kick his back legs up and come good and trot down. And then Tannis come down behind me on, what's her horse's name? Rocky? Zach.
Yeah.
She come down on Zach, and the horse literally slipped right underneath and was, I don't know how she wasn't crushed. I thought he was on top of her. But she must have slid forward in the saddle, and so he was on the back of his ass, like his tailbone in the back of the saddle. And I just remember dismounting on my horse and throwing my backpack off and running up there. And by the time I got up there, she'd gotten out of the way, and she was already undoing the
saddle.
She was already undoing the saddle. I undone the belly strap, and then I think she undone the girth first. I undone the belly strap, and then we took the saddle off him. And once he could sort of breathe again and got that little bit of extra weight off him, because he wasn't even trying anymore. He was just like legs up in the air, neck between his legs, and just like in a little ditch on a slope like this. And then this is what I mean, how agile they are. That horse just stacked it like that. He got that weight off him. 2 or 3 attempts, he ended up jumping up, and then he was fine.
Yeah.
He was absolutely fine. We put the saddle back on him. His ears were forward again. He was happy. Everyone, you know, like especially Tanner, she checked him all over. He had no cuts, no breaks or anything like that. And then, yeah, obviously from there we kept riding out. We bogged I bogged my horse, and like up to his guts. It sounds like you're driving a 4-drive and you bog it to the axles.
Yeah.
And this would have been the original bog to the axles. And like he's a big horse, like Chase is a massive horse, and he sunk up to, you know, his belly. And sometimes it's safer to stay on a horse at that point than jump off straight away, because that's how you end up getting trampled or rolled on or something.
Yeah.
And I tried to ride him, like stay on top of him as best as I could with him kicking, and then he settled. And then I hopped off him and then sort of got up under his head and sort of held him up, and he ended up getting up out of the bog. And then the mule that I was leading she got bogged, and she's like an absolute demon. Like this mule has been bogged before, and I think Dorian was telling me, or Tennis, bogged before, over on its side, like fully bogged,
all legs sunk in
fully,
the earth.
and then just leans out and
starts eating grass.
like so unfazed, so crazy. But anyway, so she's bogged bad, and she's over on the side, and Dustin come running up, and because horses can stress easy, like mules and donkeys, everything can stress real easy in a situation like that. So he's sort of just like stroking her face and keeping her with us. And the same, she had a full pack on, and as soon as we released like the girth strap and the belly strap, it was she sort of fought away through the mud, and then she ended up jumping up, and that was Beth, and Beth's like the war horse, and she's strong as hell and happy as hell, and he's always forward and just. And same, so we got her out of that bog, and she was in there for a while, and it was sort of a pretty stressful moment. And we get her out of that bog, and she takes like 4 yards to where it's a bit dry, and she's like, just starts eating again, like completely unfazed, you know. And
it's a full-on feeling going across those bogs on the horses, because they're striding out like. They realise, and they start just going fast, and their legs are flailing. But they've got it covered. But you feel like, holy crap! I'm about to get thrown off here. So you just got to
when you're 300 pounds like you are, that's a lot harder on the horse.
Totally. And I feel bad. I walked a bunch of that trail.
Oh, there was a
just
heap.
Give them a break.
You know the other place we walked? We walked another slippery slope off the horses. And I'm so glad we did, because every horse went off the edge and struggled to recover without weight on their back to come back on the trail. Otherwise, it was like off like that.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of stops last night to try and get back.
Did you guys see that tree get snapped in half by Blythe's pack horses?
No.
So, like a tree that was like, I'd say is not quite as big as, like the size of a volleyball.
Yeah.
Like round.
Wow.
The two horses, the pack horses, their lead rope, because they were, kind of tethered together.
They went on either side.
Somehow they both went on either side and then wrapped around it.
Oh, shit.
And then the rope somehow got in there, and they were like, they started to thrash, and they just boom, took off, and that tree just snapped in half, and the whole top of the tree just started flying through the air and went like 20 yards through the air and landed down the hill, and it was like,
holy smokes.
Horsepower.
Yeah.
Just unreal. The power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is all in daylight. Then it gets dark. Then it was hard enough. Then it gets dark.
I think Keith was a little freaked out.
Then it gets dark. Keith's riding a mule, because a couple of the horses were a bit sore for saddling. And so Keith, because the mules aren't as good in the mud. Like their feet are smaller, they go in on that angle, and they're just not as good. And that's why Beth, or Betty, or Betsy, I kept calling her. I don't know. Beth kept getting bogged. Keith's horse got bogged.
On the mule.
Horse slipped once, and Keith somehow got off to the side of it. I don't even know. The mules rolled in dirt, like on their own behalf. Like we're just riding along one day, and because I'm leading Betsy as well on my horse, and the rope just gets pulled out of my hands, and I look back and I'm like, mule down!
And it was on the side of a real steep embankment.
Yeah, and it was like the first like shaly dirt that we'd come across for the whole trip.
You thought she's injured.
And I'm like, and she's like on all four, and I'm like, oh, poor Beth, she can't even try. Like she wasn't even trying to get up. I'm like, it must be bad. And then she puts her head to the side and just starts like rolling in the dirt. She just had a roll, hopped up, walked back up to me. I grabbed the lead rope again. I didn't even hop off my horse. I grabbed the lead rope again, and then Keish rides up behind me on his mule. And then I see her stop and she drops down to all four, and I'm like, Keith, I'd get off if I was you. And he just like steps up to the side, because she's already at that height. She's at human standing height. And then he hops off to the side, and then she just rolls on the saddle and rolls on the other side, hops back up, gets her back on it, and we're off again. It's like they were waiting for that roll the whole time.
Yeah.
The mules won't roll in the snow, the horses will.
Yeah.
So, but those, like, mule sounds offensive to
You
me.
didn't like that.
I don't like the word mule, especially when
Trojan donkey as well?
steed or Trojan donkey or something. They just need a better name because they were the heart of that crew.
I always have like admired mules, and I've owned mules, and I've always thought of mule as like, I made some comments about how, you know, really the West was won on mules, not on horses. You know, it's like they're just a different animal.
Yeah, they're hardy. You were saying how their eyes are more set to the side so they can see their back legs when they're walking and things like that. They're definitely a hardy creature.
They're different.
Yeah.
And those, I think they said Beth was like 30 something years old.
And she's just so keen to stay, you know, walking and just, you know, I don't know, there's no, like, seems to be no pushing them, where sometimes the horses, you got to be like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, and give them a bit of a kick.
No, that one hill where you talk about where they slid and then fell off the trail.
You had a stack there, didn't you?
I got off.
Yeah, you got a concussion.
I fell where Zach fell.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
And I didn't know anything about it. It all happened in front of me.
You weren't on the horse when you fell.
I was.
Oh,
yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, and I came over the hill and nobody said get off. Maybe you should walk them, right? Like,
well, you missed that memo because a week ago I walked.
Because I was at the end of the line.
The side was
end.
Fine.
Yeah.
If you just bushwhacked it on the side and it looked dodgy, but the side had moss and things on it, wasn't a frozen trail.
Mm-hmm. Had I known people were just sliding to the, you know, I would have gone off. But my horse did what Zach did and just hit the butt and then flipped back. So, and when he flipped back, I landed and smashed. I mean, I don't know exactly what happened because I don't remember, but
that's why I know you got.
I hit my head.
Because it's like you forget.
And now I know the term bell rung.
Yeah.
Like when you get your bell rung, because it was like, ding. It was the oddest thing. And then when I was trying to get off the ground, I was struggling to get up, you know. And then I crawled up the bank and was holding on to some trees and just trying to get off the trail so I didn't get rolled on or something. I looked up the hill, and James is up there. He's the last in line. And literally James is standing like 6 feet apart. Like there's two James on the hill. And we had a whole conversation, and as I'm having that conversation, he starts to converge into one James over like a minute or two. I'm like, you're getting closer together, but you're still...
What was he saying? Because James is way relaxed because he's a Kiwi.
Yeah, and I was I was asking him, what happened? What happened? He's like, you fell. I'm like, well, yeah, I know, but what happened? He's like, it was a wreck. I'm like, I know, but what happened? Like, how did I fall? Like, I don't remember. I'd like to know what happened. He's like, oh, it was a mess. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not getting any further with James.
So James, just like, plain and simple, you fell off.
Yeah.
That's it. There's nothing really to say.
But again, the horse was fine and checked over, and and it's like it's more stressful for us than it is them. That's why the point that I make, like, Beth takes 4 yards and starts eating again with her ears forward after being stuck in the mud.
They're like goldfish. They have a short memory.
Well, that's the thing that I've read about stress a lot and studied it somewhat and had done a few podcasts on it actually. And they talk about how animals are stressed and how stress is healthy. Acute stress, like or momentary stress, and then. Like, you look at a gazelle and a lion is out there, or a cheetah, and a cheetah chases it, and there's this intense moment of stress and evade and escape. But as soon as it escapes, it walks over and starts eating again.
Normal life again.
It downregulates instantly. It's not aware of its ultimate death. It's not aware that consciousness and intelligence isn't there. It's just, now it's safe.
Yeah.
Where... as human beings, we're unique in the sense that we know someday we will die.
Yeah.
That's a burden that we harbor that like a grizzly bear isn't aware of.
Yeah, that's right.
So time isn't...
Animals just so instinctual, where it's just like, I'm getting chased, run. I'm not getting chased, feed.
Yeah.
Eat.
And where we are, that with intelligence comes that curse almost of, and so we kind of harbor stress continually.
Yeah.
So let's say, someone gets bit by a shark in the ocean. It's a 1 in a million thing, right? And so in theory, they heal and they should go back into the ocean and be fine, right? Like another critter would do that. It'd be like, okay, I escaped that predator. I'm good now. Human beings are like, it happened once, and there's this knowledge of that, and now it's like every time you get in the water, there's the fear that it might happen again. And so every time you're in the water, you're stressed.
Yeah.
And that comes with that level of intelligence.
But we're also stubborn, so it's like, I'm going back in.
Yeah, I'm going back in.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's like also we stress out over email or bills that need to be paid or things that, and we let it just be a constant level of concern where, and normally if you can down-regulate that stress and be like the horse, the healthier you are.
Yeah.
Like if you can live in a way where you experience those high levels of stress. And what we did out there is I think more natural than living in the city.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Out there I was just thinking about this today. Out there I had, the feelings and emotions and everything that could be pushed on me from like 6 people. 5-6 people, right? Whatever they're feeling that day. You sort of feel a bit what they're feeling if they let their emotions out and stuff. And it was just really relaxing and seemed healthy, and that you had your own thoughts to be with, and you had people that you get close to, and they're everyone that you had to deal with, and the issues in your whole entire life out there were like bleak, like you might thought about grizzly every now and then in that shitty situation. Other than that, all you're worried about was finding game, which isn't even a worry. It's just something you want to do. And then today when I come back, and I sort of put it off for a while, then I connected to the Wi-Fi out there on the ranch, and it's like 340 emails, and like the third email in is like one that I'm not happy about. And then I'm, it's just like, I'm going to swear on your podcast. I'm like, like, I don't want to deal with all that junk. It's so much that comes into your life, and especially if you've got a social presence, like out there I had like 5 or 6 people's opinions or whatever to deal with, and which was never an issue. And, if someone out there wakes up and they're having a bad morning, it's like comes and goes, and it's like one person. When you've got a social presence and it's like 300,000 people that might get to message or comment you or something like that, what percentage of 300,000 people wake up shitty in the morning? Because there's a big amount of them. Then you're the first Instagram page that they see, so you're who they want to mouth off at or something like that. And it's like, and just everything else is just craziness. And it's like, I so want that isolation.
Off-grid moment.
Off-grid. It's so peaceful, and it seems so how it's supposed to be.
That is interesting for me. Like, it's the end of the season, and you get pretty exhausted. You've been going for a long time, and so it's easy to kind of get your head down and just do the work, but be really tired, and so you're not necessarily handling situations as good as you can. You're getting angry at horses when you normally wouldn't. You're getting snappy with each other, like all that type of stuff. And I talked to Adam about it a bit, and it's like, man, at the end of the day, like out here doing something you love in a place where, like you're one in, I don't know what the percentage of people that get to experience it, be in this position. And I think it always comes back to that with stress, is putting things in perspective. Like, stress is a great motivator, and like momentary stress is a benefit for sure. I mean, you think about physical fitness, it's stressing that creates that result. But I guess reflection is like the sleep to physical fitness, where it's like it gives you that ability to step back from it all and go, okay, yeah, like that is a tough situation, but I can still find that inner peace and be happy at my situation, where I am, and the fact that I'm alive. Yeah, that's what we were talking about a bit. It's like, man,
it's like as good as it gets.
It's as good as it gets. I can't. There's nothing you can complain about.
There's something about being there too, and the remoteness of it, that makes you realize how small and insignificant you are in so many ways. Like that nature doesn't care whether you're there or not. It's just been there for a long time, and it's gonna keep going after you're gone.
Yeah.
And one moment that really stood out for me was we were riding back after I shot my moose, and it's all packed, and it's kind of like a victorious, triumphant ride home, and I'm like, it was my last day, and it's like I just wasn't sure if I was going to be able to shoot a moose and get a moose, and so we did, and we're riding back, and it's through the big, giant meadows, up there. And the stars are out and they're clear, and Tanis is singing like country songs in her like
real Canadian
voice.
She's got a deep voice,
and she's got that voice,
husky voice,
husky voice, and she's singing along with these sultry tones, and then Doran is whistling on horseback at the front to the same tune. And we're just like, and you're just out there, and it's been a long day. Now the horses are leading us back in the dark, and and here and it's just so peaceful and stuff, and that goes on for about 5-6 minutes or maybe 10, and I'm just soaking it in, going, how awesome is this, this whole experience. And then the next thing you know, it's mad chaos. And Keith's mule just does a breakaway at full speed. And just all the horses bunch up and the pack string is going crazy, and we're grabbing reins and trying to whoa everything, and you're this close to Keith just hitting us like a bowling pin and just smashing into stuff. And then we Keith just keeps on going. Like you can just see him in the night disappear in the dark, like, because it's snow, so you can kind of see. But then he gets far enough away I couldn't see, and all I heard was like Doran yelling, "Pull the reins, pull the reins," and Keith's like, "I am," or something like that. And finally, Keith kind of stops up there, but it's not over yet, because as Keith rode by, he dropped his phone, which is what freaked him out in the first place, and it's playing Led Zeppelin. And so, like, it went from peace to just chaos in moments. And the adrenaline surge from that was just intense, because, those horses are so powerful. And when they just decide to go apeshit crazy, it's like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen here. And everything calmed down, and adrenaline went away. And then we were back on the trail again. And back to that peaceful moment, and you feel like that's kind of natural.
Oh yeah.
Where I didn't think once about the nagging like responsibilities and the garbage that needs to be taken out, and the all these things, right? That are constant.
That you accumulate.
This is like you survive, you eat, you stay warm. You're just reduced to those basic needs, and when they're met, you're like peaceful. And when there's an emergency, and and I feel like it really helps me reset what really matters in life.
It feels super healthy too, like for the mind, like not even like physically, I just mean for the mind, like that. Whenever I get into that moment when you are just living for the basics and they're all that matters, that's when I feel the most healthiest mentally. Like I just feel like right in my place, like, and it just always, it's just like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is where we're supposed to be. Like, why did we come so far past this? Like,
it's that feeling of being in the right place at the right time, which, like in life, sometimes you're in a position where you haven't made the best decisions, or you you feel like you're not making the most of what you got, and that puts its own stress on you. And then when you have those moments of like right now, this is perfect. Like I'm meant to be here. Nothing else could be better, and that's a feeling I chase for sure. Is like that, knowing that you're on the right path, and that's a pretty special feeling, I think.
Well, I don't remember if I told this to you or it was John Barklow, but I was making a comment because this trip was, a financial investment for me. This was this kind of a bit. I labored over the decision whether to go or not to go for months. Going, I don't know if this is really like financially something I should be doing, but I also know I want to have this experience, pursuing moose in this kind of country. And so it's like, balanced it out and kind of talked to my wife like you talked to Kim and figured it out. But I was saying, I think it was to Barklow, I was like, last year I went to Cancun with my wife for a few days, like 5 days or something, and spent some money for the trip, the airfare and where we stayed. It was like they brought you food like 3 times a day, and you sat out by the pool, and it was relaxing, and we did some snorkeling in the ocean.
It sounds really boring.
And I enjoyed it, but at the same time I was like, I was bored.
Yeah.
There wasn't like some life-threatening
like
cold or misery involved. And so I was kind of like just bottled up, and my wife loved it, and that's why we did it. And I enjoyed being with her. But for me, and it took me till like the last day or two of the trip to start to enjoy it. And I was telling John, like, most people look at that and they go, yeah, that makes sense. I would pay for that.
Yeah.
What we did, my toes, I still can't feel my big toes.
Yeah, like why would
like
you pay
on
for
my
that?
hands, like my thumbprint changed. I can't use my phone like the code. Like they're so calloused, and you're like sweating, you're tired, you're on a horse that like crashes 3 or 4 times in the dark. I mean, this is sketchy stuff. And yet I paid good money to go do this. What does that say?
You're an idiot.
What? Yeah, like what is
basically secondary fun is always better fun.
A certain amount of people would say you've got mental issues to do that.
Yeah,
they would.
But then there's another group of people that would say the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And that's like I'll do anything for that experience. I told you on the drive back to here, like I'll die on the mountain if that's what it takes for that experience. It's friggin' awesome. And so now it's so changed that this is what you used to have to do. This is what you used to have to do. Now you've got to pay to do it, unless you're a resident, obviously. And you've got that set up, but we're not residents, and we don't have that set up, and we want to experience this country and this, this adventure. And it gets to the point where it's that situation that you explained, where it's like not even an adventure anymore. It's just where you want to be. Do you know what I mean? It's like not the adventure that's so appealing. It's just like right where you are right now. When you're out under the stars, riding in the dark, you've got your own kill on horseback.
Grizzly bear tracks the size of like.
And it takes you back to a time where we were for so long, doing those sorts of things. Like it's instilled in us 100%.
And how about wolves, man? Because that's that part that just pushes you over to the next part. It's so primal, I think, to hear wolves howling like that. And what we witnessed, and the wolf, that pack of what, 30 or more wolves just doing their thing all around us. That was spectacular, and that really did make you feel like you were in the middle of nowhere.
That was incredible.
It's eerie and kind of exhilarating, I think.
I don't live with wolves. Dan sort of does because he spends a lot of time in the country guiding, but I don't live with wolves. Like there's no wolves in Australia, but I hear a howl like that, and it's like nearly a calling Like, it's nearly a calling, it's nearly a natural sound to me, even though I don't live with wolves, you know, and it's like, it's almost like what's a good way to explain it? It's like the sound of that land.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a sound to come out of BC, one sound, it's not a moose call or anything like that, it's a wolf howl, you know, and you hear it, and yeah, it's incredible.
And the tones that they make.
And all the I was just trying to find the video of that pack howling around me and play it in this quiet room to see if you can hear it.
It's different, man.
Yeah, I mean, they're such a incredible animal and how they operate together, and there's a lot in the area. I think they moved in this year, and here we go.
Listen to them all in the background. And it doesn't stop. That's me. That's definitely that one was me. But listen, they love it. They just.
And what are they saying?
Well, they
There's
probably
a
heard
bloody
me
Aussie
walk.
here.
Yeah,
Let's go get him.
they probably heard me walk and were like, "That's one big ass wolf."
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. If you now that you've done this hunt, Adam, and it's over and stuff, and you know, if there's anything that like, what does it leave you craving now?
Caribou. The first hunt that I ever done, and like, we'd never got on any caribou on this trip, and it's not for that reason, but the first hunt that I ever done was in Canada, was Northwest Territories for moose, and had a caribou tag, black bear tag, wolf tag, wolverine tag. Mm-hmm. And I ended up killing a moose on day 7. I didn't really see any moose until day 7. Got a nice big bull killed on day 7. And the only tag I was worried about filling after that was, and because I'd shot a wolf as well, I'd closed that tag, was the caribou. I just wanted to chase caribou, and I had only 2 days chasing caribou, or maybe 3 days chasing caribou. And I was looking for an even bull, not the biggest bull or anything like that. I just wanted the bull with double everything, double back tines, double nice tops, double shovels, double brows, the lot. Is it called brows on a caribou? Bez. And so I chased them pretty hard, you know, and it was up and down, like, sheer friggin' edges on the side of, like, coming into a river valley. And the first couple of bulls that I seen just walked this sheer slope without slipping once. They walked straight down it, they crossed the river, and then they would just walk straight at the top. Like, it took them 10 minutes to go this massive distance on these crazy slopes. And straight away, like, it was already appealing, like, the country that they could cover and how they could walk it. And then I got onto one of their migration trails. Like, you can tell the difference between a trail they just walk and a migration trail, because a migration trail is like a foot into the ground where it's soft. And they led over to a big rock shelf, like a big flat rock, and that rock was worn like an inch. It was worn an inch into the rock from thousands of years of thousands and thousands of caribou walking through it. They actually wore a trail through the rock, and it was like, it just really resonated with me, like, that animal, and seeing them on the hoof and how they act. It was just one of the ones that really sparked with me. And, like, people are always like, what's your favourite animal to hunt, you know? And it's like, well, since I hunted elk, I've hunted elk every single year. Since I hunted a few of the Australian species, like buffalo and red stag and fallow deer, I've hunted them every single year. Since I've hunted tahr in New Zealand, I've hunted them every year. But there's animals along the way that I've hunted once and haven't gone back to. You know, hog deer and sambar and chital and rusa, and there's a bunch of them that I haven't gone back to, and whitetail and mule deer. I can just hunt them every now and then. But caribou is one of the ones where I'm like, if I could, I'd hunt them every single year. And if I could only pick one animal to hunt for the rest of my life, it would be caribou. The meat was delicious. they're such a big, attractive animal, and just the country that they live in, because it's not just the animal, right?
Right, it's where they
like,
live.
Yeah, it's where
that's
they
why
live.
The New Zealand tar was like...
Yeah, and that's why the mountain caribou was so attractive. They just walk up and down the mountains, you know. They're not on those just flat plains. They're just anywhere. And end up getting a caribou killed and on the ground, and they were nice to skin, and, you know, the skin's nice, and the meat was beautiful, like I said. And so caribou's something that's high on the list, and I'd love to come back into this country for the caribou alone, mountain caribou particularly.
I saw one through a spotter on this trip, and it was a good looking bull. Roberto saw it first, and then we all kind of sat up and watched it. It was a long way off, but I've yet to see one like with my naked eye, like a live caribou.
Yeah, so impressive.
Yeah.
And you can fully skin one, and you can hold the whole skin of a caribou in one hand with ease like this. They're completely buoyant, the hair's really hollow, and it's just, the skin's just light. And you skin them, and it's like, I mean, like, you do your cuts, your line cuts on a caribou, and you just pull that whole skin off by hand. And it just comes off white. They're just an incredible animal.
Yeah, their hoof is different. It's just like made for walking in the snow, it seems like.
Well, it's sort of a lot sharper and defined, and yeah.
Their hoof print was cool. Like, all that stuff was neat. Like,
yeah, sure.
I mean, I hadn't seen it before. It was like my first caribou tracks in the snow. Like, they had just been there because they had just snowed like an hour or two, and it was like...
And they're like fellow deer where there's like no two antlers are the same.
Right.
You know, they're just so unique and different.
That's what I noticed when they were all laid out. You know, when we got out, and there was, and they were
all the seasons heads were there.
All the seasons antlers were there, and I was like, yeah, I want to hunt too. I just, yeah, that's high on the list, just because I hadn't really. I still, you looked and you looked, but it was like that unicorn for me because I didn't see one.
Yeah.
So just a cool deal.
Sure.
Yep. So I don't know. I'll say this, like, on this trip. So I didn't know what to expect from Dan, having met him once already, but I thought I had pretty high expectations of Dan, since he seemed well read and, you know, very, very friendly and professional. And turned out that that's how he is, you know. And that was refreshing, and he by far was the best cook, and I don't mean to offend anyone else there, but you crushed the cooking, so that was pretty cool. And I've not hunted with Adam. I haven't hunted with you before, so sharing camp, you never know when you go somewhere. They kind of do. They portray themselves in one way, and then in real life they're another, right?
Yeah.
And with Adam, you know, there was just what you see is what you get. There was no like you were working hard in camp, you were pulling your weight, you were saddling your own horses, you were always helping with the firewood, or like you're not there to be waited on, you know. And
because it's all part of the hunt, eh? It's like, it's the whole experience.
Yep.
And because I told you a couple of stories about being in camp with not people that I know, or not anyone that's known in the industry or anything, but going, and there's other hunters in camp, and they just want to shoot something from 400 or 500 yards away on the first day, get a quick photo with it, and then that's it. And they get the guys to do everything: skin, meat, you know, carting it out, carrying it out, and I suppose that's fine because that's part of the industry, like that's where it is, but it doesn't suit me. That's not what I want to experience. And it's nearly upsetting to see that happen, because I feel like those people are missing out on so much.
Yeah, totally. Missing out on the whole,
like,
missing the bigger picture.
Exactly, you know, and that hunt that I did in Northwest Territories a few years ago now, there was one hunter there from Lebanon, a politician or something from Lebanon, and it was one of my days that I'd been flying, and you couldn't hunt within 12 hours, I think it was, or might have been 24. Either way, I couldn't hunt the next day, but I still got up early in the morning and I went out glassing, and I spotted like 3 big caribou that were coming straight towards camp from a distance. They were going to walk straight across an airstrip. That was the only way to get in there. And so I run back to the kitchen, and this guy is in the kitchen. I'm like, do you have a caribou tag, man? And he's like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, well, get your guide. There's like 3 big bulls. They're going to come across the airstrip shortly. So, yeah, he ended up getting his guide, and they rode off in a 4-wheeler. And then, I don't know, 5-10 minutes later, I hear a gunshot. You know, and you hear when a gunshot collects, you know. And so I'm like, awesome, he got it. And then like 5 minutes later, they're back. And I'm like, what happened? And he's like, yeah, shot it. And I'm like, oh, awesome, where is it? And he's like, oh, it's out there. The guides were going to do it, and went into the kitchen, sat in, went and, you know, got someone to pour him a coffee and make him breakfast in the kitchen. And I see the guides getting like a little trailer that goes on the 4-wheeler ready. And I'm like, are you guys heading out to that caribou? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, give me a sec, I'll go grab me knives, I'll come with you. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I'll come with you. I'll come and help you cut it up. Like, that's part of hunting. Even though it's not mine, it's still part of the experience, and I'll experience it wherever I can. So I get out there, and I'm like, well, if you guys want to start on the back end, skinning and taking the meat off the back end, I'll cape it all out for him, because he wanted the cape. And I took a couple of photos of it on the ground and stuff, and I started caping it, and they were like, you know, why? Like, are you sure you're happy doing this? Like, usually we do all this stuff. And I'm like, no way. Like, this is part of the experience. And if I'm going to wreck a caribou cape, might as well be someone else's. But, you know, it's just, I just said that to break the ice, because it's like something you shouldn't feel weird about, something you should want to do. But they asked me so many times, like, what, are you sure you want to help? That it's like I had to break the ice and say, no, well, if I'm going to wreck someone else's cape, I'll, this is the one, you know, but I remember skinning the whole cape out and taking the cape off and thinking, how amazing is this animal? I didn't even shoot it, but I still got mass appreciation for that animal, and holding the skin and everything. And then that just wanted me to get one more, because I'm like, you know, this is amazing. I want my own caribou. I want to eat my own caribou meat. I want to have my own caribou trophy skin, whatever you want to call it. And ended up being on the last day, in the last 20 minutes of legal light, that I ended up killing a caribou myself with a bow. And it was so cool.
It's interesting, because some of the clients that we have come in, they're actually kind of enthusiastic, but they don't help because they feel like they'll make themselves look like a fool, like they don't know what to do. And then there's some that just don't, you know, that's your job because you're getting paid to do it or whatever. Either way, it's fun. But when I notice that someone is just a little hesitant because they don't know what to do, then I'll get them involved. And, you know, hey, could you grab that or whatever? And, you know, and then they'll get involved. And then that really lends itself to the experience. They'll value it more. And the guy before Adam, he processed a lot of his own game, and so he was right in there, and that was really neat. And he had a very similar outlook to Adam. So yeah, it's always really cool. But you do get a variety of different clients, and you're gonna kind of handle it differently. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and
I hope that didn't sound like I was trying to rag anyone that doesn't do that, because that's fine as well. But for me, it's like I said, I just like
value that process,
the whole thing.
Totally.
But I can see, if you're getting paid as a guide, why people would expect you to do that, and whatever, that's fine.
And a lot of guys...
Or is it fine? Or should I actually be saying that's not fine, pull your finger out and stop being a lazy dick?
Yeah, sometimes...
Like, I'm really not sure.
Yeah,
right. Because,
Well, a lot of the guys... in the States, they can just cape it out and then give it to the tax firms. They don't have to turn the ears or lips or anything like that. And so it's kind of one of those things where, what can you get away with not having to learn? Because it's kind of annoying, or it's tricky. But
we've talked about that. There seems to be, especially when it comes to hunts that cost more.
More expectations.
There's a situation where a lot of guys that do it to collect, not to hunt.
Yeah.
You know, he's out there to collect a caribou and go home, not to...
Which is still helps conservation, doesn't it? He's still buying a tag. He's still putting it into the industry. He's still shooting something that's legal to shoot. Do you know what I mean? So that's why it's hard. It's like you can't rag on it, even though it doesn't suit us.
I've said this for years. Like a lot of times, so there's more altruistic motives for doing things, and then there's more selfish and I think like negative motives for doing things. When someone does something that ultimately is good, like let's say they buy a tag and they go and they harvest an animal and they bring it home and they eat it, right? Maybe their motives are so they can show off how big the antlers are to their buddies, right? And I don't care why they do it in the beginning. Because I think everyone evolves. Hopefully most of us evolve over time. We grow, we mature, we change. And the way that maybe I viewed wildlife and hunting when I was much younger and the way I view it today is different because I've changed, I've grown up, right? I often don't care why they do it. I hope that someday, whatever their motives are now, if they're not the best, that they become more and more pure over the years. And so that eventually they do find themselves in the position where they say, I want to experience the whole thing. Like, I don't want to just collect. I want to actually hunt. I want to know that species. I want to be
feel like that
closer to nature.
That does pretty much happen in all cases. It seems like hunting just builds that because, you know, the more animals you're around and the closer you get to animals and stuff like that, you just can't help but to appreciate them more. And through appreciation, you want to use them more, you know, so whether it's like you used to just shoot for a trophy, now you shoot for meat. Like I shoot for everything now. There's like no one item. It's like the whole package.
It's an experience.
And a part of that package is what I was just saying, skinning animals out, you know, like gutting an animal has never been a dirty job to me. Yeah, it's like it's something that I actually enjoy doing, and if you say it to a non-hunter, it makes you sound like you're sick in the head. You know, it's like sitting down for skull and like cutting all the meat off a skull. I actually enjoy that moment. You know, it's like a part of it. It's like comes with it now. You know, imagine every time someone punched you in the face, you got $10,000. Pretty soon you'd start enjoy getting punched in the face. It's true.
Yeah.
So the successful part of the hunt is you will end up gutting an animal. So you start to like it. You know, and I do. I actually enjoy it. I like doing it. It's a part of the process. It's the whole experience. And it's like, you're a trophy hunter, but I eat the meat. What do you mean I'm a trophy hunter? And I take photos of the meat, you know, and I enjoy the meat and
not just the meat, the whole story.
Exactly, the whole thing. So it's like, I am a trophy hunter, and I'm also a meat hunter, and I'm also an experience hunter and an adventurer and an outdoorsman, and just all those things compiled. It's not one thing. It's never one thing. And it's like milking it for everything it's worth.
Yeah.
I think it's who you surround yourself with too. The more people you surround yourself with that are ethical and have that mindset, then the more you become like that. And then as an industry, the more you focus on that stuff.
The more articles based along that, the more stories that are based along that.
Then you shift the industry into that. And that's the issue with a lot of hunters that are just shooting it for the big rack to show their buddies, is that they don't necessarily know any better, or they haven't been shown any better. And so I think it's just a case of, it's just a matter of time, because there's obviously a lot more interest in hunting, and I think people like Joe, who have a wide audience that aren't hunters, get that interest, and to them it makes sense. The ethicalness of it, the meat taking part of it, the trophy kind of part of it doesn't quite make sense. But if you, like Adam was just saying, it's the whole experience, everything about it that is powerful. If that's the message that we all promote and pursue, then you're naturally going to change the way the majority of people think. You're always going to have the douchebags,
but I think when you break down an animal, you know, like that moose was laying on the ground when I was looking at it, and there's a part of me that was like, and I feel this most of the time with every animal that I shoot, I'm celebrating because it's done, and I've killed the animal. And it seems counterintuitive to celebrate killing an animal, but there's a lot of time, effort, money, sacrifice that went into that moment, and then it happens, and you're like, okay, but then I walk up to the animal, and I'm like, I also felt like I was a little bit torn on shooting the bull because I was enjoying watching what he was doing, and I was like, what an incredible animal, and he's alive right now. Once he's been killed, he can't bring that back. That can't be reversed. It's done. And there's a certain finality when I'm standing over it, and Doran was with me, and I was excited to go up and see it and put my hands on it and touch it and see this moose. And but at the same time, I felt a little bit of sadness that it's dead, you know. And I'm sitting there and I'm processing these emotions, and it happens most of the time. And then we start cutting it up, and the back quarter comes off, and the front quarter comes off, and then the back straps come off, and then you know we're working on the other side of the animal, and we're flipping it over, and we got the loins, and pretty soon all that's left is you have these perfect piles of meat and all these bags, and I don't feel that remorse anymore. Like breaking down the animal, pulling out the heart. You know, we ate that the next day for my birthday, and birthday tacos in camp, and breaking it down is almost like that medicine for the remorse.
It's like the ceremony. It's like Indigenous people have a ceremony when someone dies, and it's part of the mourning process, and it's like that's right. When you're cutting up an animal, and especially when you're cutting up meat, and you're like, that's going to be such and such, and this is going to be such and such, and I'm feeding 3 kids and my wife and myself, some friends, some family, whatever. That seems to be part of the mourning process for a hunter. That's like, okay, this is actually good. This is for a purpose. What we're doing is right.
And I think that's why I love to film it, photograph it, show it, and then eat it, and share the pictures of the eating and all of that, because it's part of, and I don't want to say part of what helps me justify what I did, because to me it doesn't need justification. I choose to live, and by choosing to live, I will consume life. But it does help me reconcile the death that comes with it.
Definitely. Well, we're humans, we've got emotions, and some of those emotions are silly sometimes when you think of the animal kingdom and stuff like that, but at least we have those emotions which bring passion, and then so if you're passionate, if you're merciful, then you got to make sure your broadswords are sharp, or your projectiles are powerful enough, or you wait for the right shot. You do all those things over and above what happens in the actual animal kingdom. Like a tiger's not like, are my claws sharp? Are my teeth clean? Am I getting the right grab? It's just desperation. It's just like, if they lunge onto something, if they miss it or whatever, they're not like, shit, that animal's wounded now.
No, and that moose I had at full draw at 70 yards through the willows, I think I could have made that shot. I really think that. But
because you're not an animal, you didn't, because you also had the thought of maybe not, I might hit that branch, or that's not quite right, or it's a bit out there, or something like that.
It just wasn't a sure enough shot that I decided not to take it. But I'm pretty sure with the arc of that arrow and where it wouldn't have to go through too many of the willows, and I'd have hit vitals, and he'd have been dead. And he was standing there for quite a while, and I just sat there debating it. And at the end of the day, I chose not to, and I feel like you just said, that's because I do have emotions, and I consider, the well-being of the animal.
Yeah, you want to be humane.
And so taking the risk, it's like I've thought about, well, if I'm on the other side of that arrow, do I want someone shooting through the willows, or would I rather them wait till I walk into that opening? Because hearing those...
Neither.
but see,
actually neither. But
I didn't have a choice.
You know what I
if
mean?
it's
Like,
if it's a bad wound or a slow and pain, slow drawn out death or a quick death, you want a quick death.
and honestly, as I sat there, I was thinking at full draw, and I kid you not, about those wolves, and I've been thinking about it for the last couple of days. An animal out there gets wounded, it's good as dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those wolves are going
They're just going to pick on the first bit of weakness they find.
Or the grizzly bears. Those things are as big as cars. And all they need is a little blood trail, and they will not leave it alone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, would I want to go down that way? You know, it's like, I don't know. So, it's a savage place, though. I mean, it's
as wild as it gets.
It's wild. So it was an awesome trip. Lots of video and photos to share. You know, things to share. But I don't know.
Yeah, good experience with good people. Like the crew and you guys. It was awesome. It was a highlight.
Amazing team. Like Dustin needs to be absolutely stoked over the team that he's got. Like I think about it in my own business, you know, like it's hard to get people that are all on the same sort of level.
Yeah.
You know, a positivity level, not just work, how good they work, but to have all good workers and then all the same attitude. That's really hard to find. And like Dustin's got it in that crew, and
professional.
Yeah.
And they're up at like a couple hours before us.
Yeah.
In the dark, getting horses rounded up
Tough as nails,
so that they can leave in the morning, and then we're coming back in the dark. You know, often, and they're preparing dinner and getting to bed late, and they're taking the horses out to the meadows, and I'm like, these guys are working like dogs. And
like dogs. The dogs are in the cabin.
Yeah, the dogs are relaxing.
Constantly fed, constantly pat and loved.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're
just
treated
like than the dogs.
I don't know what.
Some
the dogs
reverse
are pretty
roll.
good off. The dogs are awesome company too.
Yeah.
When you're out there like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because dogs, like the horse doesn't care if you feed it or not, and it doesn't remember you when you do feed it or pat it or like, you know, load it up lighter. It's just like it's just whatever.
Yeah.
Everyday life. But the dogs, you slip them a little snack.
They love you forever.
Which Dustin does not like you doing. But you slip them a little bit of snack or like 5-6 pounds of moose. And they remember and they want to come up and be friendly and cuddle and
yeah.
That's why dogs are such a good companion.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I call them therapy dogs on the sheep hunts because when it's a tough day,
I imagine
others give them a hug and feel a bit better.
Yeah. Like they like you even if you stink.
Yeah.
Like, and you stink. You have a manly odor.
Are you talking to me directly?
Yes, directly. Just you in general. Like Dan has a smell.
A month in the mountains in a shower. That's
all Australians.
Yeah. It's
the old convict stink.
It's a penal colony.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well,
been real.
Yeah, we should wrap it up because we have a flight like in a couple hours.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
It's 1:20 a.m.
Stuck a couple
in the morning.
Of yawns in there.
I know, but I'm glad we did this because the opportunity's here, and it's so hard to fit it in. But I feel like it's so worth it, you know, especially when I go back and listen to it later, you know, for my own.
Yeah.
It's just,
and it's fresh. It's right in our heads now, you know. It's like, and like you'd be hard pressed to get me and Dan in Salt Lake City or something at the same time.
Yeah, 2 Aussies, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're so weird. Like, why are you in our continent?
We're gangsters. We just take over wherever we go. That's how we roll.
Wait, we're gonna break into rap now. Like, I can feel it coming.
It would be like a Jimmy Barnes rap.
Yeah.
Who's Jimmy Barnes?
Yeah. Well, thanks guys for joining us.
Thanks for keeping us up this late.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Oh, as always. All right, let's have a good night. Stay gritty.
Stay gritty.
Despite our ever-changing, ever-indignant world with its growing ignorance of and indifference to the ways of the wild, I remain a predator.
pitying those who revel in artificiality and synthetic success while regarding me and my kind as relics of a time and place no longer valued or understood. I stalk a real world of dark wood and tall grass stirred by a restless wind blowing across sunlit water and beneath star-strewn sky. And on those occasions when I choose to kill, to claim some small part of nature's bounty for my own, I do so by choice, quickly, with the learned efficiency of a skilled hunter. Further, in my heart and mind, I know the truth and make no apologies for my actions or my place in time. Others around me may opt to eat only plants, nuts, and fruits. Still others may employ faceless strangers to procure their meats, their leather, their feathers, and all those niceties and necessities of life. Such is their right, of course, and I wish them well. All I ask in return is no one begrudge me, and all of us who may answer the primordial stirrings within our hunter souls, my right to do some of these things myself. What you just heard is a quote from M.R. James. We truly live in a world that is largely ignorant and indifferent to the ways of the wild. And although some regard us as relics of a time and place no longer valued or understood, we have the opportunity to change the way these people view the hunter and the hunt. We can share our experiences and nature's bounty with those who employ these faceless strangers. And by so doing, we make a difference, not just for ourselves, but for the wild animals and the wild places we care so deeply about. Never stop sharing your passion for hunting and the outdoors. Our wild animals and our wild places depend on it.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
Gritty Bowman.